Hey, what's up guys, it's Disturbed, and today I'm going to be showing you guys what I think is the best DPS build in patch 1.8 for both PvP and PvE. Just overall, huge amount of damage, and you get a good amount of survivability as well. Now, before I get into it, I just want to quickly mention what's been going on with me, and also let you guys know that I am going to be starting up my farming services again, which people have been asking me about recently. But if you're not interested in any of that type of stuff, just skip like a minute or so into the video if you only want to see the build. But anyways, so basically, I just straight up haven't been playing this game for a while. I pretty much just lost faith in it, and I was preoccupied with playing other games, so I had no reason to play it, therefore I haven't made videos on it in a while. But recently I've been pretty bored with other games, so I just decided to give it another shot, and I figured I might as well make some YouTube videos while I'm at it. In the future, I plan to make a few more videos and possibly even stream a little bit, so if there's something specific you'd like to see, leave it in the comment section below, because I kind of don't have many options with what I want to make in terms of videos right now. Like, I don't really know what to do, but people have been asking for a build video, so I just decided to make this. But yeah, for now, I'm just going to be making a couple build videos like people have been asking me to, and if you have any specific requests, I'll make sure to do it. Also, I want to mention that for this video, I was using my friend Sean's account, so feel free to check his YouTube out in the description. He's a great guy, and that's pretty much just because I haven't played this game for such a long time that I have absolutely no gear on my account, and I didn't want to farm for 60 plus hours to get a perfect set for you guys. I wanted to make the video as soon as possible, so that's what I'm doing right now, but in the future I should be playing on my account. But anyways, getting into the build, as you guys know, this is going to be a Striker's Battle Gear build because this is the best build that there is right now. If you guys already know about this, I mean, there's not much to say, but this is just for the people that have absolutely no idea, and a lot of people haven't asked me to make a build video, so I figured that I would show my own version of the build, or my friend's version that that we made together. So anyways, we're running 6-piece classified striker. This is pretty much just because in solo scenarios it's best because you get the consistent amount of huge damage, which is more damage than any other set. And you also get the passive healing with your stacks, which is great. I'm sure you guys know about it, but if you don't, it's just, when you hit people, you get stacks of damage, and the 6-piece makes it so where that per your 3000 stamina, you get stacks of healing upon shooting people, and you get extra stacks of damage, and then those stacks don't get reduced as much by missing, so you actually have a potential to have those stacks at really high most of the time. I'd say typically in PvP combat, if you're like doing 4v4s, like in skirmishes or anything like you saw in the gameplay, you have those stacks at like 50 plus all the time, which is a huge amount of damage increase. And then for the guns, here we'll go over stats first. So in terms of firearms, stamina, electronics, for stamina I went for 6k because the 6-piece goes for every 3000 stamina, so we went for 6k stamina and 6.6k firearms. Ideally you'd want to have like 6000 flat stamina and then just pump the rest into firearms for more DPS, but with the way that these pieces dropped, I was not able to do that. And then for the guns, yeah, let's move on to guns, that's fine. So we got a lightweight M4 here, and then we actually have 2 of them. The second gun doesn't really matter, but mainly you either want to use a lightweight M4 or the house. The house is pretty good, but I prefer to use an M4 just because it's what I've always loved using. In terms for talents, for PvP, I run Responsive, Unforgiving, and Deadly, but if you're going to be doing PvE, I would say run probably like Responsive, Unforgiving, Destructive, or maybe instead of Unforgiving, you could go for Responsive, Destructive, and Brutal for the headshot damage. It's pretty much up to you, but in PvP combat, you go for Responsive all the time because it's just 10% flat damage for the majority of the time. Unforgiving is great, especially with this much stamina, because very often you're going to be at under 1 segment or possibly even under 2 segments, and when you need that extra damage at really low HP and you're trading with somebody, getting an extra 25% extra damage is huge. And then Deadly is just to help complement the fact that we're going for a lot of crit chance and crit damage on this build, because headshot damage has been nerfed recently, and it's just a lot easier to go for crit chance and crit damage anyways, especially if you're on console. But if you're going for PvE, obviously you can go for Destructive for the enemy armor damage, which is like flat 18% damage, which is a ton, and then you can go for Brutal for headshot damage, or you can just stick with Unforgiving or Deadly, just up to you. If you have multiple guns, then do what you will. For the secondary, this one is just for when we're finishing people, just Predatory and Determined. Second gun doesn't really matter. You could have your second gun be an SMG if you wanted. You could have it be a... I wouldn't recommend a sniper, maybe if you just wanted to swap to it when you have huge stacks and you want to hit somebody really hard. Your second gun doesn't really matter that much because you don't have to swap very often, but sometimes you do need to swap just to get that final shot off, but it doesn't really matter a whole ton. You could also go for the house, which is pretty good, but other than that, there's not many options for guns that I think are very good. There's LVOAC, you know, lightweight M4, and etc. Now for the mods, if you're doing PvP, I would recommend going for crit damage, crit chance and crit damage on the scope, and then crit damage on the muzzle, and then magazine size, crit chance and rate of fire on the mag, and then on the grip you go for crit damage as well. This is if you're on console. I mean, it really depends on if you're confident in your own aim or not. In PvE, I would go for headshot damage regardless of if you're on console and if you have good or bad aim, because you can hit a lot of headshots. But in PvP, if you're on console, just go for crit damage and crit chance, because you're going to be stacking a lot of that anyways with pulse and on your gear and whatnot, so you want to complement that as much as possible by giving yourself more and more crit damage and crit chance. But if you're good at landing headshots, going for flat headshot damage isn't that bad either, so it really just depends on if you're on console and if you're confident with your aim and whatnot. Moving on from mods, just for the secondary, we just have another gun, Predatory, Determined, doesn't really matter. You could also get, there's one other talent that I'm forgetting that gives you something when you kill somebody, so my bad for forgetting about that. Going into individual gear rolls, for the chest piece, went for health, just because you need that extra health, and then for the other major attribute, just exotic damage resilience, so you take less damage from grenades or Predator's Mark, which is helpful. And then for the mask, we went for crit chance just to complement that crit damage and just, you know, just giving you extra damage, which is nice. And then we also went for burn resistance, which is great. You could also go for shock resistance or bleed resistance if you wanted to. And then for strikers, or for the knee pads, we went for crit damage just to get more damage. You could also go for health here or for exotic damage resilience. Just depends on if you want to be more tanky or not. But in PvE, going for crit damage, I would say, is worth it. And also in PvP, I mean, you just get to melt people. I didn't really seem to have much of a problem with my overall tankiness. As long as you use your heals and whatnot effectively, it's nice. And then for minor attributes, just try to get bleed and shock resistance primarily. Flame resistance is cool as well. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get this on that piece, but no worries. For the backpack, again, went for crit damage. You could also go for health or EDR if you wanted to. But again, just the extra damage is cool. And then you could also get bleed resistance on the backpack if you wanted. And then for the gloves, we went for assault rifle damage, and crit chance. But if you're going to be in PvE, you can swap out either the crit damage or the crit chance for enemy armor damage, I believe it is. And then that'll give you more damage in PvE scenarios. But if you go for this works in both PvP and PvE, so that's definitely great. And then for the holster, just went for more crit chance, but you could, again, go for health if you wanted the extra health. And then for our mods, we just have pulse crit chance, just to give us that extra crit chance to complement the fact that we're stacking all of that crit damage, and, you know, more crits, more damage. Easy peasy. For the abilities that we're running, we got Scrambler or Conceal Pulse, which is great because people won't be able to use their pulse on you, and then you can get some pretty nice flanks in skirmishes, and also people will just be doing way less damage on you. And with all the pulse crit chance mods that we've been stacking, we got about 15% pulse crit chance. Now, if you're doing PvE, forgot to mention this, if you're doing PvE, I'd recommend going for damage to elite mods. You can get these, the purple ones, they frequently drop in like safe houses and whatnot. I'm sure you could find some from one of the vendors. So I definitely recommend getting those, because damage to elites is way more damage than just the small amount of crit chance that you get there. Anyways, moving on. For healing, we go for Immunizer. This is great in PvP because you can put this down and it makes a Predator bleed not even work on you, which is awesome. And you can also blow it up while you're ADSing and get some extra healing, and it's much more effective than going for healing like a first aid like booster shot. But yeah, I think this is pretty great. Other than that, you could go with booster shot in PvE just for the extra damage resilience and extra damage that you get, or you could go with like EMP sticky bomb if you wanted to, just to make sure that other people's striker stack don't work. But I don't see people running this that often, and I mean, it only doesn't let it work for a short period of time, so it's not that, you know, that big of a thing. And in terms of talents in PvP, I like to run a critical save with extra damage resistance, strike back to get my cooldowns faster when I get to low health. This procs rather often, and there's not many other good survivability talents, so that's great. Combat medic is always a must in PvP when you're not doing solo stuff, so that you can heal everybody near you. And on the move is also good because it's just more damage resistance. Now, if you're going into PvE, I'd recommend switching one of these to one is none. Probably either strike back or combat medic. It depends on if you're doing stuff solo or if you're doing stuff in a group. And the great part about this build actually is that I played with it solo, like by myself, and it was great. But playing with it in a group, like it's not only a solo build, and it's not only a group build. Like, it's both, and this is why This is my favorite build. It works in both PvP and PvE, does a whole bunch of damage. You get the passive self-healing, and I'm sure you saw that in the gameplay there. Just an overall great build. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you guys enjoyed, please make sure to drop a like, and remember that if you do want me to do farming services for you guys, like I mentioned beforehand, like making you guys a build, I could farm for you guys, I could just upgrade the build that you have currently, just maximize it with doing roles and whatnot, email me at disturbedmods@gmail.com, and I'd be more than happy to help you out. Thanks guys, have a good one.